Greetings Marines, FiOth here, and in this vid we're gonna be digging into the stress and trauma mechanic. As you can see here, my dog Cynthia is a mess. She's suffering from depression, she's wounded, and she's exhausted. What we want to focus on is the depressive part. This is depressive 1. Okay, so how do we come upon this ailment? I will be showing you some stills during this vid, but I will mostly be explaining vocally so I can get the point across as effectively as possible, because the tutorial is a bit Every time your marine deploys, as you can see in this picture, there are 3 segments below their status. It's the stress counter followed by 3 orthogonal parts. Each one of these parts represents 1/3 of a trauma affliction. So what's happening is the more that increases, the worse off your marine will be after the deployment. So for example, stress builds up to 100% on the first bar. You will get 1 section filled here after the deployment is over. If 2 of these bars are filled, you will get 2 sections. If 3, you'll get 3 sections, and so on and so forth. It is pretty much unavoidable to at some point get some stress on the marine. Unless you rest all the time and take it extremely slow, you will build trauma. If in any scenario you are in a mission and you hit the max counter on your stress level, you will 100% have a trauma segment filled when you're back at base. As soon as this one flashlight battery looking thingy fills, you are into trauma segment 1. So you'll have a 1 here, and 1/3 of this will be filled. You hover over it, you'll get a description. Depressive, for example, the marine starts every mission with 30 stress damage. So as soon as you start, instead of being at 0, you'll be at 30. This can be treated by psychiatric care. So if you go back to medical psychiatric care unit, you can treat them here. In order to treat the marines for psychiatric issues, you have to first heal their wounds. So the first order of business when they come out of a mission is to heal physically, because you can't have someone with his guts out in psychiatric care. So let's hit the same marine, apply 6 physicians. As you can see, I exhausted my physicians. Dietrich is not here anymore. She is available for psychiatric care. If you place her in here, it says that it will take 2 days, because every 2 days, 2 trauma points are deducted from here. Okay, so I place her in therapy. It'll take 2 days. It states here that you can stop at any time, but you lose all benefits of the treatment, pretty much like in real life. So now she's unavailable for deployment, which is pretty self-explanatory. There is another way to counteract trauma without having to go into therapy though. It is the mind of steel attribute. This will randomly roll when the marine is ready for a promotion, pretty much a level up, and it states that the marine automatically recovers from trauma after 3 days. So if you have a marine with this on and you cannot afford to leave him with the reserves, after 3 days pass, he will be in top shape. Now 3 days is a lot of time, and with 3 days in psychiatric care, you can pretty much deduct 6 trauma points. That is 2 out of 3 levels of any given trauma. The difference being that he can still be deployed whilst passively healing of the trauma ailment. Not to mention, whilst this is still building, if 3 days pass, it will be a blank slate, it will be cleaned. Now what about the meds you can take during a mission? I am not 100% sure, so if any other discoveries are made, I will be making notes in the description of this vid, but I believe that if you take meds during a mission, it works pretty much the same as healing someone during a mission. The heal or deduction of stress points is ephemeral. It will be working, it will be in effect for the duration of the mission, but on the background, the damage has already been done. So the best way to go about this is not to allow that stress to climb to 100%. This is much more difficult if you are ailed by the paranoid trauma, because as it states, if the squad has more than 3 active marines, the marine takes 0.1 stress damage per second. Every 10 seconds you build 1%. So you're passively building stress without being in a combat situation or without being hunted, let's say. So paranoid is one that should be treated ASAP. Here I have 4 dots. I'd need to put FiOth in recovery for 2 days in order to treat him of paranoia. If you want my opinion on this, treating them from paranoia earlier, even if you have to just stay in base for a couple of days, it's surely better than getting on the field and then having to fight the symptoms, which will lead to more stress accumulating, which will lead to more trauma. So paranoid is one of the worst, should be taken care of ASAP. Now a couple of notes when it comes to how stress works exactly. You won't be stressed if you don't have paranoid and you don't engage enemies during a mission. During a hunt or an onslaught, stress will accumulate even if you're not actively firing at something. So when the bar at the top right is yellow, you're in trouble, stress builds up. When it's red on the top right, you're either detected or in an onslaught fight, threat keeps climbing. And when you're fighting synths, when you're fighting cultists, as long as you are engaged, you keep building stress. Cultists will not put you into a hunt state, but the mutated semi-human hybrids that you meet later on will. So be careful, and any sort of Xeno should be avoided in order to avoid initiating hunts and onslaughts and building stress. Exclusion to this if you're trying to gather materials, the xenobiological materials to be precise, so you might want to go out for a hunt, but that's a totally different scenario, not related with the purpose of this vid. This is it, guys. Leave any comments about any questions you might have. There are no dumb questions. I'm going to try to answer everything, and trust in the community to also provide feedback. Sub, like, and hit the notification bell for more content like this. I will be covering Dark Descent very extensively, streaming it pretty much every other day. Until next time, be well, stay frosty, and always strive for perfection. Cheers!